Now, high drama is underway on Capitol Hill Thursday as fired FBI Director James Comey tells U.S. lawmakers how President Donald Trump expected him to pledge his loyalty and urged him to drop the investigation into links between his aides and Russian officials. Trump ousted Comey last month, saying he was thinking of this Russia thing when he decided to sack the chief of the country's top criminal investigative agency while he was leading its Russia probe. Comey's testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee is his first public comments about the 9 conversations he said he had with President Trump in the months before he was fired, 3 face-to-face meetings and 6 phone calls. Here's some of what Comey said to the committee just a short time ago.
The FBI is honest, the FBI is strong, and the FBI is and always will be independent. And although the law required no reason at all to fire an FBI director, the administration then chose to defame me and, more importantly, the FBI by saying that the organization was in disarray, that it was poorly led, that the workforce had lost confidence in its leader. Those were lies, plain and simple.
Do you have any doubt that Russia attempted to interfere in the 2016 elections?
None.
Do you have any doubt that the Russian government was behind the intrusions in the DNC and the DCCC systems and the subsequent leaks of that information?
No, no doubt.
Do you have any doubt that the Russian government was behind the cyber intrusion into state voter files?
No.
Do you have any doubt that officials of the Russian government were fully aware of these activities?
No doubt.
Now, Comey's Capitol Hill testimony is one of the biggest congressional hearings in years. Well, for more on the Comey testimony, VOA's congressional reporter Katherine Gypson joins us live from Capitol Hill. Now, Katherine, I first want to ask you, we kind of had an idea what Comey is going to talk about. What has stood out up to this point?
That's right, Vincent. We got a good preview yesterday when we saw that 7 pages of advanced testimony from James Comey, but there have been plenty of riveting moments today, namely when he talked about whether that moment in the Oval Office with President Trump was an obstruction of justice. And Comey answered that he said it wasn't in his purview to make that determination, that that'd be up to the special counsel, Robert Mueller, but he had plenty of other moments that were illuminating about his relationship with President Trump. One that stood out to me was when he said that he felt compelled to document his conversations with the president immediately afterwards and was upset by the pushback from the White House after he was fired, saying that those assertions that the FBI had lost confidence in his leadership were lies, plain and simple. That's a pretty extraordinary moment for a former FBI director to say about a sitting president of the United States.
Yeah, sure. And he did kind of say something like that was wrong, that those are pure lies, especially talking about the agency being in disarray, right?
Right. That was a very intense moment. Those shifting explanations that came out of the White House and from President Trump himself after the Comey firing changed moment by moment, and Comey said that he found those disturbing.
Now, Katherine, what are some of the reactions that you may have seen or heard up to this point?
That's right. So the reaction is already coming out on social media. The Republican National Committee has been tweeting throughout this hearing, saying that the big revelation that's come out of today's testimony from James Comey is that former Attorney General Lynch tried to pressure him to let go of that investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. And I know for a lot of Republicans, that will be the highlight of James Comey's testimony today.
Now, we know that the committee is bipartisan, but in the questioning, do you get a sense that it gets a little more love from one side, or these gentlemen and ladies are focused on the law and morality of this issue?
Well, there are so many issues at play here, and the overwhelming issue here is about Russian election interference. James Comey was asked if this is part of a long-term strategy on the part of the Russians, and that's a concern for both Democrats and Republicans here. Comey's answer, this is certainly going to happen again.
Now, we know that this is one of the biggest events on Capitol Hill for many, many years, perhaps. In terms of the reaction from just some of the people close to him, what are they saying? Discrediting what he's saying? What happened between him and the president?
Right. So it's interesting in that we haven't gotten any tweets from President Trump himself. We know that he's always very active on Twitter. We know that his schedule, his public schedule, was completely free this morning. So we expected some tweets from him, but we haven't seen any. Instead, we've seen tweets from his son, Donald Trump Jr., who has been pushing back and saying that if his father had meant to pressure James Comey to drop the Flynn investigation, he would have known that when his father gives a command, it's clear.
Wow. Thank you very much, Katherine, for excellent reporting. We'll be checking with you again.
Good to talk with you, Vincent.
A pleasure. Well, that's VOA's Congressional reporter, Katherine Gypson, reporting live from Capitol Hill. Now, so what could come out of this testimony? Well, for more perspective, I'm joined by VOA National Correspondent Jim Malone. Jim, what a day, once again. Now, the issue here is this about Comey kind of vindicating himself, or, as the president said, is it something between the two of them on who's telling the truth?
It's Comey telling his side of the story. What's striking about this appearance today, Vincent, is the personal nature of what we're getting at here. We are at a showdown between the President of the United States and the former FBI director, and it's about the truth. And what you have is a character like Comey, who's very savvy and experienced in the ways of Washington, who took meticulous notes, and he tells us why. Because he feared the president might lie about their interactions. There's a lot here that is potentially damaging to the president. But the key question right now is his comment to Comey about trying to let the General Flynn investigation go. Does this rise to the level of the legal term of obstruction of justice? And that's going to be debatable right now. And what we saw in the committee today, Republicans on the committee trying to defend the president, pushing back on that and asking Comey if he thought it was so concerning, why he didn't take action at the time.
Yeah. Now, the question here, is it possible to get clarity on this issue when there's so much partisanship?
Well, there is if there are tapes, which the president suggested at one point in a tweet there were. And today, James Comey said, Lordy, he hopes there are tapes. But he took very careful notes and shared them at the time with members of his FBI team. It's also interesting that he gave copies of those memos to a friend, a law professor, who then had them leaked into the media.
Yeah, he says that.
And Comey himself said he hoped this might spark the appointment of a special counsel. Did that happen? Yes, it did. So again, what is happening here? This was someone who was thinking ahead. And as Comey himself testified today, every conversation he had with the president, at the time, he was thinking in his head to be very careful about documenting what the president said to him. He thought it was very unusual that a few times other people were asked to leave the room, so he was alone with the president, which he felt uncomfortable about. So there's a lot here to digest. Is it damaging? It looks potentially it is. How damaging is the question? And we have to hear now from the president, and I think we're going to hear from his lawyer later today.
Say the president or the White House disputes most of what Comey is saying. So if all that is not true, then what?
Well, first of all, the president has previously disputed the fact that Comey says he asked for his loyalty and the fact that he wanted the Flynn investigation let go. We have the president on record previously denying that. Yeah. What will he say today, or his lawyer say today, in light of this latest testimony? We have to wait and see.
Is there are circumstances where the White House can be compelled to produce their side of kind of notes or tapes, as the president said? He hopes they're taped.
They have not confirmed there are tapes. So the first question is, was this taped? And that gets us into a Watergate-like series of questions. So I think, where do we stand today? It has deepened the questions about what has gone on. Is there some smoking gun of evidence that points to illegality by the president. No, not yet. In fact, Comey has said in response to Republicans today, there were no direct efforts to curtail the Russia investigation that he was aware of.
Yeah. So some of these things are all about laws, regulations, procedures. Is it a matter of how it is interpreted by whichever side?
Right. When it comes to the president, though, it's rare that the president is going to face legal action. What happens is it is a political situation that he will face. And one of the political options down the road, especially if Democrats see something of wrongdoing, is moving toward impeachment. We haven't seen that yet. But that is the political kind of way that this kind of thing has been dealt with in the past. It's more political than legal. But right now, more information needs to come out, and the Mueller investigation could take a long time. So the cloud about the Russia probe the president worries about is going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, so it's all about, there's the Comey factor, then there is the investigation and whether the president was trying to obstruct.
But his appearance and the way he presents his evidence was strong, and that does present a challenge for the White House to respond.
Well, Jim, as always, thank you for making things clearer for us. And we know we are going to have you back here in the coming days.
Thank you.
Well, that's VOA's Jim Malone, is our national correspondent.